Animals, as we know, have a survival instinct. It's part of our instinct as well, a baser instinct. They will do what they have to survive. They do not have the same choice that human beings have. We do a lot of things that we can do things that are beyond survival, reproduction. We can choose a deeper nature that is beyond this world. Animals, if a coyote needs to chew off its leg to get out of a trap so it lives, it doesn't question that, it just does it. Um, it doesn't think of what it would be like to lose a limb like we might. If we had to saw off a limb or remove a limb in some way um, to survive, from a trap or to get free from a trap. Reflection, when it comes to survival instinct, is sometimes counterproductive. But personal reflection and personal understanding of oneself as being, and that there could be other ways of being, hypothesizing mentally and working towards a deeper way of being that's beyond the material world, that's something only humans can do. The animal nature wants to perpetuate itself. It's nature's way of allowing life to live until it becomes intelligent enough, or until it reaches a birth that's intelligent enough to conceive of itself as more than just a continuation. But that's not quite right, is it? Because there's a deeper continuation of something that's beyond nature, and we human beings can conceive of that, whereas animals cannot. It's really interesting because cats, for instance, they can just naturally go into a meditative state, but they don't know they're doing it. They just fall into it. There's not choice. There's just reaction to their nature or the acceptance of that nature. It's always strange to me when you see, a wild animal reject its young. That makes me feel like there was a tiny bit of choice, or perhaps that animal was, for some reason, destined to make the wrong choice, or perhaps there's no wrong or right in it. Sometimes animals just abandon things. Perhaps there's no wrong or right. Perhaps there's not even that level of choice on the animal's behalf. It's a lot of these reasons are why it's really hard to get to human birth, because we all go through mineral, plant, and animal births. But once we get to a human birth, that's when we can conceive of ourselves as being other than we are, better than we are, or perhaps something completely different than what our animal nature will tell us. Doesn't always mean we make the right decision. It just means that we have the option, and we can. And even for a human being, it takes a long time for that soul that's collecting lives over time, learning more from lives and lives. And the soul already knows everything, but it's recording. And it's also traveling with the decisions that its lives make. It's almost like a hostage in a way, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I'm not sure if I should say fortunately or unfortunately. But eventually this stuff that is attached to the soul, that's been deciding for the soul's journey, will reach a point. Saying, it takes probably more than one human birth to reach this point. A point where animal nature is realized and the futility of it is realized. And feeling and seeing something deeper becomes easier. And it feels like, for a human being who has reached that point, it feels like gut instinct. Like, okay, there's something deeper. And, the dogma of religion doesn't necessarily prepare you for that spiritual depth. It just happens to be what you're born into a lot of the time. But once you reach a birth where, you've realized enough in your past births, you start to be like, okay, there's a deeper nature to me. I'm not just my exterior. I'm not just what I think. I'm not just my circumstance. And I don't have to identify with these things. I can identify with something that I'm seeking. Because you don't know at first, but as you seek, you start to realize, you start to feel yourself in a way you've never felt before. Maybe even getting a vision of your soul, like I have. at least to a certain degree. Evolution happens among animals and human beings. Things evolve in nature. The spiritual evolution is the one that's harder to see, but it's the one that physical, natural evolution was always meant to allow and work towards, allow us to reach that point. Because without, Darwinian evolution, then, we wouldn't reach a point where we could mentally, our brain could conceive of ourselves on a deeper level. So physical animal evolution provides a baseline from which eventually, biologically, we can reach a point to where, human beings as a species reach a point where it can conceive of itself, but that biology can also be very much part of your spiritual evolution, not just, the ability to conceive of, but the specifics of your biology and your ability to affect it, your desire to affect it, with the choices that you make, provide a build-off from that baseline of physical Darwinian evolution. But that's a choice we make. And the vast majority of humankind don't make the decision to have a deeper conception of themselves. Even just that. People identify with very much how they look, where they're born, how they're born, their circumstances, and because it's more comfortable to identify with what is obvious, what is surface deep, because it's something you can see, you have evidence for, you have a heritage, you have an environment, you have family, friends around you. Very much easy to identify with your relations. And unfortunately, most people identify with their relation to their body, rather than truly thinking about the soul. Really thinking about it and really trying to reach out to their own soul, touch it, and allow it to affect your mind and allow it to affect your understanding of your nature. And it kind of starts off, once you start doing that, you start to realize how much of a blank slate you are and how much nature has decided for you. And then it's almost like you have to reteach yourself a lot, and get rid of a lot of different filters that society and your circumstance has taught you to put on your eyes for the sake of convenience, survival, and comfort. But those filters are an extension of animal nature. Survival, emotional, mental, physical, all the kinds of survival, except for the progression of yourself as a soul. Once you overcome survival thinking, you get to progressive thinking, if you will, but not in the political way. In the Enlightenment way. And once you reach that level, then you truly start to have free choice in a way that you didn't before, when you were more associated with your animal nature. Getting there, it's hard for most people to have a desire to see themselves as they truly are. Their soul, of course, but also the flaws that lead you away from your divine nature and towards your animal nature, survival. It's really hard for us to determine the difference between survival and choosing our higher nature, because we're born into a situation where the animal nature just automatically rules us. But you'll see a lot of people who in past lives have realized certain things, make realizations that they didn't seem to get influenced into by a teacher, by a family, priest. And you'll start to see those questions in them and in their path, and it's wonderful. These questions seem to spring out of nowhere. But two things. 50% is what you've realized in past lives. The other 50%, just vaguely, is you choosing to think about these things and try to find your deeper nature, your divine spark, and identify with that rather than your animal nature, and also what culture or society you find yourselves in, or political situation you find yourselves in. It's extremely hard for people who are impoverished, who are poor. There's less opportunity to think about and delve into these things. It's definitely not impossible. Actually, sometimes it helps because you start to, a lot of people who don't have a lot of money start to see material for what it is, and that it just helps somebody survive or get by. And then the questions can also start from there. The questions about your deeper nature can start from a number of different places. It just depends on the individual. There's no kind of person. It depends on individual choices. And then free choice really starts to reign once you start to identify with your soul and not your animal nature and your material body and what is around you. What is within you is so much more vast. It's almost like a gateway into a dimension that is a pocket universe that is your essence, your true essence. See, a lot of the time when we get bored, that's our soul kind of hinting at us, telling us, hey, what you're doing and what's around you and who you think you are, is that satisfying you? Is that interesting to you? Or is there something you're missing? So I guess my overall message is look for that something that you're missing. Because eventually, it'll lead you to where you need to be to find your true self and to be the person you were always meant to be. At any rate, this has been a video about animal nature and divine nature. I hope this has been interesting. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, shoot them down in the comment section below on YouTube. And feel free to contact me on Facebook at www.facebook.com/hunter.salazar, HUNTER.SALAZAR. Contact me on Messenger. More than willing to talk to you if you're polite, and I almost always respond. At any rate, seek your deeper nature, whatever you decide that is. Try to get away from your material identification, and all of you, have a wonderful day.